The reason we only stock D'Addario strings is because D'Addario strings are perfect.
When people come in here, they think that we get them for free or something like that, but we don't. We have no other reason except for dependability and tone.
Hey everybody, I am John Bohlinger with Premier Guitar, and we are at Third Man Records in Nashville. This is Jack White's lair, record store, everything else, and I'm with Dan Mancini, or as the Italians say, Mancini, who you started as Jack's Tech, and then got into production of this whole line of hardware you guys are making, and you're going to kind of run us through some of the stuff.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, kind of joining in with Jack's kind of design and ideas, and kind of getting things out into the world that he's always wanted to have live on stage and stuff. So it's never a dull moment around here, that's for sure.
It's got to be such a dream gig, because it's kind of like driven by this intellectual curiosity of let's try this. It's what it really seems like.
It is, and it's always about the, finding new inspiration and finding new challenges and trying to find a different way to attack a guitar, because as you know, every time you pick up a different guitar, you're kind of a different person of yourself, a different little facet,
Right.
You throw a Telecaster over your shoulder, that's like one side of you, but you throw a Flying V over you, you're gonna play something entirely different.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mentality of like being able to swap it up and find new things that, get a different little side of your personality,
Yeah. Well, and man, on this new guitar, this new collaboration with Fender and the other stuff we'll get into, but it's just so whimsical, and it's like you guys just put everything in it. Like everything, when Jack was talking about like whatever, you say, okay, is that too much, or we can't do it, or
I mean, yeah, it's never want to be like that, but yeah, there's a lot of ideas that he has that it's like they're like 5 or 10 year projects. It's like, okay, let's chip away at that and get to that. But yeah, like I think what's exciting too is that it's all, purpose driven stuff.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, I always wanted to do this. Like, let's try that out. Some stuff sticks, some stuff doesn't stick, some stuff you get the head start on it, and then you just keep tweaking. And along the way, it's just like, these are just years and years of touring and road testing stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we got a lot of prototypes out with us where we're just, figuring out how we want stuff to work, how we want to use it, and it's super fun.
Yeah. Well, what should we start with? There's a ton of stuff here. Do you want to start with guitars or pedal boards or?
Yeah, I mean, we could start. This is the main one this year.
This is what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, check that out.
Golly. Okay, so like you're saying, purpose driven. I bet over the years of gigs, he thought it'd be cool to have a kill switch.
Yeah.
And he thought, well, it'd be cool to have a B bender.
Yeah.
Cool to have a Bigsby.
Yeah.
Cool to have 3 wildly different pickups.
Yeah.
And then you get into all this stuff. I don't even know what it does. Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of this is, pardon my smudge prints. We just came in hot off a tour, so we're kind of catching up. This is me like kind of reclaiming the gear back in here and doing all the little projects that you don't really get time to do on the road when we're doing these like kind of cool punk shows. Right. But yeah, they all kind of have their own starting place and the way they evolved, starting from, he got his first telly back in, the Loretta Lynn kind of album days, and then it just evolved as it went. And, you pick up little things along the way. Like in 2018, we started playing the Eddie Van Halen Wolfgang pickup guitars. The kill switch was on those. And once you start playing with that, it is just like, it's so much fun. And it definitely comes back to a lot of stuff that he used to do, in White Stripes, wanting to like pick and like stutter with his palm. Yeah. And
he was doing that all with his hand back in the day.
And honestly, as fun as this is, I'm so much more impressed like when you watch him on stage and he does that move where he's picking and palm muting, and it's like a machine gun. Do you know what I mean? And it's actually happening tactily with his hands.
Yeah, when they say tone is in the hands, that's the perfect example.
And I think that's one of the other things too to look out for as well is like, gear can get you a lot of really cool, exciting new tones and textures, but I think like it's also good, like watch up close, like watch the hands, like watch what they're doing. Like different riffs and different sounds. Like you're moving your hand back towards the bridge, you're twisting that pick at a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're using your finger like up here, and you're just very gently like tickling that for like, changing the tone and that like excitement of the string and everything. So
right.
I think there's a lot to be said with all that. So
and I mean, look at, okay, so the movie This Might Get Loud.
Yeah.
His first scene of that, where he like takes a board, nails a string to it, and a pickup, and it's like, and it sounds, it's music.
I mean, I loved it too. That was long before I was working for him too, and I first saw that, and it's like, oh yeah, who says you need to buy a guitar or whatever? I was like, that guy's cool as shit. That's awesome.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so, but that's the spirit of it though, is that like, he's always a guy out in his garage, messing around in the upholstery shop or like getting his hands dirty with stuff and everything. And, it's fun to see him like get in there and just make things happen. And then, so it's fun to see it all come about too. Cause for instance, this is here, like very deliberately here in this position. It's one of those things, you started here and then we're like, oh cool, it might look good if we moved it down to the end of the horn. Cause like, balancing fashion and function, right?
Sure, right.
We're like, oh cool, it might look great there. And it's like, we switch that out and get it up there, and it's like a little too far away, and then we reel it back and it's like a little too close, and it's like, I don't know, finding that really nice balance of like hitting it exactly where it needs to be is kind of, pretty fun, and figuring out all these cool modifications along the way, like this switch here.
What does that, I've never seen anything like that. What is it?
So this is actually a 3-way switch that in the center position, you're gonna have just normal operation. Your pots, everything's working as normal.
Yeah.
If you tilt it up, that's a kill switch. So it totally like kills your guitar, which is something that he's always wanted to do. He's, this Kay, for instance, he's always added an extra kill switch on there. And, especially when you're playing loud and you're playing rock stuff and there's feedback coming from monitors and amps, you never know where it's at and stuff. When you have this and you can go, all right, it's dead. It's out of the circuit, And so that's handy. And then you go on the down position, and that's kind of, that goes straight to your output jack. So you end up bypassing your pots. And then so, say you're on any of these pickups, you get your tone rolled back, and you can have a really nice smooth kind of like vibe happening.
Right.
And then, you kick that sucker into, they call it the blower switch. I don't know who dubbed that term. But yeah, you send it right out there, you bypass that, and you just get that extra little bite, and you take the load off your pots, and it's a fun little tool. It's great to have in the arsenal,
Yeah, when you really want to unleash hell. Just
open the floodgates.
Open the floodgates.
It's cool. So
okay, and tell me about these pickups.
Yeah, and that's another fun one too. That like, over the years, been fortunate enough to get to work with Tim Shaw and stuff, and like really,
dude's amazing.
Shaped. He's a legend, and
he was a legend at Gibson.
Yeah,
he was a legend at Fender.
Yeah, and it's been really nice because some of these pickups started as they're calling that the JW humbucker, and it started. They made a guitar for his wife Olivia, and it had those Tim Shaw pickups in it. As soon as he played, he's like, "That's what I've always wanted pickups to sound like." So, kind of took that as a starting point, and then took that out on the road, and we kind of ended up trying a different couple wiring configurations and different pickups, and then just came back to that as like the tone. So that's a starting point for your bridge.
That's the JW.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is the JW90, and that's another kind of custom Tim Shaw voiced, P90 bass sort of thing, and that's really fun too, because I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but the middle pickups always feel like the forgotten middle child or whatever that gets skipped over or whatever, and
part of that's just the operation. Like it's easier to go front or back.
Well, and you want those really dramatic sweeps of like very crunchy and good attack, or you want nice creamy like neck pickup. But this is fun because it's raw and it's punk and it really bites, and it gives you that extra reason to like, hey, this middle pickup's not just laying there, like hanging out. Like it's actually, a cool little workhorse to have in the arsenal. And then, man, this wide range humbucker, that's another Tim Shaw specialty where, got into him a few years back. I guess it started with his brother. He had one of those old 70s tellies that had him in there. And then I think it started with Raconteurs, that orange telly he had.
Yeah.
That was the Kuna fakes or whatever before they ended up being able to source the Kuna Fey magnets again. The Tim Shaw brilliantly ended up reviving from the grave. Yeah. So these are at the actual nice Kuna Fey ones, and it's really cool. I feel like, I don't know if anyone's ever had that where you like that creamy, bassy neck pickup as a humbucker, but it's a little too muddy. There's a little bit too much low end information there.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the wide range, it's a little bit, it's totally a humbucker, but it's a little closer to a single coil where it doesn't quite muddy up as much, but it's still really creamy and thick sounding, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like you get a little bit more definition than a traditional humbucker in the neck position.
Okay, so covering those 3 very cool pickups gives you everything. Let's get into some of the other weirdo stuff, like that Bender, that Glaser Bender.
Oh man, these are so fun.
God.
I mean, this is another project that started on the Raconteurs tour in 2019, where he got a gift, a B-Bender guitar gift for Christmas, and then kind of repainted it and kind of got it all kitted out with all the hot rodded stuff on it. And it had that Parsons bender on it, which is great. It's quite heavy though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you played one before?
Oh yeah, I've got one. Yeah. I have 2 of them.
It's awesome. No complaints or anything. But we ended up for, I think it was the Fear of the Dawn tour, we swapped over and started trying the Glaser ones because he's in town. He's a brilliant guy, and like, hey, let's give it a go. It is. It's nice and light. Yeah. It's smooth. It does exactly what you want it to do.
And you're not removing all that wood from your guitar. I mean, Joe does it with just like surgical precision, just one little line. You know?
I know, it's so impressive, like that, you know, drilling out from back here all the way through.
Yeah.
That drill bit's got to look like, you ever watch the original Batman where the Joker pulls out the super long gun or whatever?
Yeah, that's a perfect reference.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's super fun too, because for this, you know, now he's got 3 bending options on it. For,
and,
you know.
And the hip shot for the drop
the
D,
hip shot extender to go drop D, your whammy, and your B bender. So there's all sorts of cool, you know.
I love that. You can tell that he's on, you know, on tour playing with that. God, I'd love it, but I wish it had this. And then he just did it all.
Yeah, but you know, it's all over time too. It wasn't just like, you know, taking your whole pot of spaghetti and throwing it at the wall and see. It's like, you know, over the years, like adding it and, you know, like you can kind of see, you know, on this older versions, you know, we tried out a couple different bending arms. You know, this is a TK Smith arm. Oh, you know, this is like the first iteration of that like Blue Sparkle from 2022, which kind of took on, you know, some of the Raconteurs appointments here, and then swapped up a couple things and, you know, tried different bending units and, you know, moving the controls around and everything. So
yeah, doing it just a proper switch there.
Yeah,
this is moved, you can tell.
Yep, that's a little like farther inside, but yeah, it's
underneath the pickguards are just a big gaping hole where you've tried different things.
Yeah, there's some carnage happening in here, but
like up to the pickups. Yeah, I love that.
I don't know. I think that's what's like fun about them is that you actually see it's these works in progress that happen as we go through tour, you know, and you know this is what we started out with as it started out actually just as a prop for a video. Where like on super short notice, they're like, hey, can we get a Blue Sparkle one? Because we get this video, I think it'll pop really great. That could be the new tour look. And so on really short notice, they brought a non-functioning one that like was starting to look the part. And then it was great. It's like, cool, we'll end up, you know, when tour happens later on, like let's develop it and stuff. And then we had another video shoot pop up. We were like, oh, we kind of need this to work. So like, I stayed up till, you know, 2 or 3 in the morning actually making it a real guitar and making it work and getting it in a bind, and then sent it back to Chip, and it just kind of evolved over time. And I think this pickguard is really pretty cool because this is actually a piece of plexiglass, this whole thing here. And that's what's fun about all the prototyping stages is that you can kind of use that to cover up holes and not have to do that. And Chip came up with a really fun way of like, you know, this is Blue Sparkle paint over plexiglass to cover the old cavity control plate.
Really?
So this is routed out so that you can get these controls out of the way here. And then I just love the lines. I love how it just kind of, you know.
And Chip's a genius. I mean, man.
Yeah, and just one of the sweetest guys in the rock and roll, you know.
Yeah, God, you're right.
So there's a lot of love in all these guitars. And
you know, this one reminds me, have you seen like Les Paul's 54 Les Paul Custom? He is much like this.
Yeah.
He had a guitar, you know, his signature guitar, and then he just tweaked it for years. And there's just a huge hole underneath this plastic where he's, you know, routing stuff out. And
yeah. So I love it. I love seeing it all kind of come about and all the new features and all the things that we're like, oh, you know what we could try? Let's try this. And it's like, all right, let's do it. Heat up the soldering iron. Let's go, you know?
Oh, and I was looking at the other Sparkle had scallop frets.
Yeah, that was another fun addition on tour. And this is kind of like the version 2 that kind of started floating around halfway through the tour.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which is fun. This, you know, this got moved down here, which is fun, but you're having to reach a little bit too far for it, you know. And
in the heat of battle, he found the sweet spot, right?
Exactly,
right
yeah.
there.
And then we changed up the arm. That's the, I believe it's the Chet Atkins arm.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
Yeah, so that ended up kind of coming about, and then that leaves it so that you can still have your normal Telecaster kind of control cavity, where it is, you know, staying kind of a little bit more true to form, and you know, that's kind of the Cabernita style pick guard.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it's really fun, like over time and in the studio, and like kind of being in Nashville, being able to, you know, swap around, and you know, the guys at Fender, you know, are really nice about kind of printing up a whole bunch of these, and we'll kind of drill them out in Jack's garage and start moving them around and stuff. You can kind of see, like, you know, the little design differences where on the blue Sparkle, you see it kind of goes in there. But then, you know, it kind of ended up liking this, leaving this little gap here. So you get that little strip of black in between that kind of helps define everything a little bit more. And, you know,
you can see the whole development. That's so cool.
Yeah, and then, you know, that one, you can see that pickup got moved a couple of times, and, you know. This one was fun too, because, you know, this started out, this has the covered,
they look so cool.
Which is cool. It's like fun that it's like mysterious. You're not quite sure. You're like, I think that's what it is, but I don't know.
And Perry pointed out too, it's like small, medium, large, you know?
Yeah, and that's also like another design, you know, kind of look, is like how do you kind of streamline it and make it, you know, do what you want functionally and sound the way you want it to, but also kind of balance that with aesthetics and making sure that it looks cool. And, you know, and so it's just about finding, you know, that harmony in that all. And yeah, and it sounds fantastic. It does sound like a little bit different with the covered pickups. But I think it's kind of fun. Like on this tour, it's been nice. I feel like this has been coming out at the end of the set. And it's a little bit brighter, and it kind of punches through like a little bit different. It doesn't have quite as much kind of low end, you know, beefiness and low mids as like this one does. Because, you know, end of a loud rock show, you know, your ears are feeling it a little bit, like a little extra high end to kind of pop through, I feel like is nice. So I feel like that's like, whether it's subconscious or consciously, like, you know, reaching for this by the end of the set. But this is cool too, because it started out as a different neck entirely on another Telecaster he had, but then he wanted to try out a soft V profile. So that's got quite a different feel in your hand, where, you know, you can kind of get quite a bit more leverage on that and dig in.
Did Chip make this?
Chip did make that,
Because this looks like a Van Halen neck. I mean, like just that kind of no finish, you know.
Oh, he loves
feel
that.
Of it.
The you know, sanded down.
Yeah.
A lot of the guitars that I've sanded down to, like, you know, 600 or 800 grit on the back of the neck and keep that nice and smooth and stuff. And but yeah, this one's super cool because he's, you know, got that V profile in there. But then at another stage in the tour, I want to say it was like a Richie Blackmore video or something like that he was checking out, and he heard about the partially scalloped.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not just the side of scallops. It's not the full plate of it, like the, you know, Malmsteen or whatever that guy is. And it's pretty fun because it's only in the solo, like, wiggly jiggly bits. You know what I mean? It's not like messing with any of your chords or your power chords, bar chords, or anything. And It's just fun because you fight that guitar differently. You know, you're in a different battle when it has different elements to it, and you know.
Hey, can I plug it in?
Absolutely.
I want to try this side. Okay. Okay. I think Jack has his. Jack's a big guy, so I gotta bring it strap up. Whoa! Holy smokes! Wow, man. Wow. So, wow. Whoa. Wow, what a great guitar.
Well, and I love too that you approach that totally differently than, either of us would, and it has that flexibility that it sounds totally different in your hands than mine, because I'm such a ham-fisted power chord guy, or it's just like fucking clunk on that thing, you know what I mean?
I'm just old school Nashville. Yeah. God, man, but it's so cool that it does it all.
Yeah, and that's what's fun about it on the road is having those options, and in the studio of getting to bounce around so fast. And
I even like the way you've got the whammy bar. You could alter it where it goes out that side. The wide side could be out.
Exactly.
Whatever works. It's that kind of tweaking to see what works for you in the heat of battle.
Totally.
Okay, well, this is so hip. So when Fender puts this out, it'll be much like this, only maybe without the B bender.
Yeah, I mean, this one is basically exactly the same as that one, just no B bender. Yeah. So it's just got the original plate on it.
And I like the thing with that ergonomic little.
Yeah, man. Honestly,
no heel there. That makes such a difference.
It's so funny because it's those couple little details that inner punk in me is just kind of like, oh man, I don't care about that stuff, and then you play it and you're like, oh, that's cool. I get it.
Yeah.
That's nice having that extra little carve out on there. So that's a great little feature. And
it's like life's hard enough. Let's make some easy things. That's what that little.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's talk about this outlier right there.
So this one's got a pretty fun story behind it.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it hasn't been getting as much love on this tour yet, because he's just having so much fun playing these new ones that are...
Yeah, how would you put those down?
I know, exactly. But this is a fun one, the way this kind of came to be, because we finished up the Rax tour in end of 2019. We all went back for like holiday break. I was back up in Boston visiting my folks and stuff, and he sent over a video online that was like someone with some weird instrument that was kind of like a synthesizer kind of guitar situation that had like, CC controls on it that was like kind of pitch bending. And he's like, man, I've always wanted to be able to pitch bend and do a whammy on a guitar. That's so cool. So it's like at home, I was like, Ma, hold my beer. You borrow the car, I gotta go to Guitar Center. So I go in and I find the guitar with the biggest pickguard on it, which was a J Mascis Jazzmaster, which is beautiful. That's such a great guitar, honestly, in my opinion. And then I found the smallest pitch bending device, which is the Electro-Harmonix Pitchfork. And then did a little redneck engineering in my dad's garage and kind of figured out how to make it so that, that's your whammy.
Wow.
So that's like your expression right there. Wow. And then this is momentary or latching. That can do octave up, both, or down. And then you got volume tone. And then this is fun too, like I thought it'd be cool to put the shift knob on the front, because part of me was like, oh, maybe that's something we don't need, we just need the octaves.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, it'd be pretty fun to have it up there so you can kind of change it, because, it has like 3 octave, 2 octave, single octave.
Yeah.
And then like pentatonic 5th, harmony 4th, I don't know that stuff, but all the weird all
the stuff,
features on it. So it's kind of cool that you can play these like harmonized solos on it if you put it on the right feature. And then as soon as he picked it up, he was playing a riff and then started using this, and it's like a really cool like stepped arpeggiator sort of thing that you can play in real time. And it's super fun, and it has like a lot of neat, you know, tricks in it where this is your on-off switch. And then it like lights up and, you know.
Well, that makes sense. So you get a visual clue when it's on. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then, you know, it's pretty fun. You can kick it on and off in latching mode, and it just works typically. But then in momentary, when you kick that on, it'll, what do you call it, glissando? Is that a musical term?
Yeah, when you slide into something.
Sliding in and out of something, and then you can control how fast or slow that is. So it can do like a or like a really quick, like, you know.
Wow.
So that's been pretty fun, and that got a lot of love on the last tour. And this is another thing, like, you know, I did help with the redneck engineering of all this situation, but then Chip built and painted it, and you know, I love the little features that he did too. This is really cool, these blue inlays.
Oh, great.
He actually went down to the drum shop in town, what is it, Forks?
Forks, yeah.
And I think he got a little spare thing of the drum wrap or whatever,
Yeah,
and then
like
he used a hole
Ludwig,
punch and like
Ludwig 60s. Blue. God, that's great.
And put that in there to match all the blue sparkle that he did on this. You know.
Wow, man, that's great.
So that's
I can't believe you squeezed that underneath the hood. Squeezed all that gear under the hood on that thing.
So that one's pretty cool, and
wow,
you know, matching blue sparkle, and
love it.
Okay,
yeah. And then over here we've got a couple Acoustasonics.
Yeah, this one's really exciting. You know, Jack was like an early adopter of the Acoustasonics in 2019 or whenever they're coming out. And so he went out and on the Rack and Tours tour, and they had that first custom one where they did like a black and orange one and used it. And over the years ended up kind of figuring out like streamlining it to what he wanted to have on a, you know, bit more of a rugged workhorse tour guitar, you know, where there's three-way switch where it's going to be just the favorite acoustic sound, which is like the really big kind of dreadnought, like nice bassy, full rich sound. And then that's going to be your standard electric. And then that's like a slightly boosted electric where it's got a little bit more heat to it, you know? Just turn up the juice a little bit. And then just volume and tone, so you have a little bit less of that, like, you know, it's great in the studio and for some players where you can do the blend between a spruce top and a mahogany body, but for what he was going for live, like this was way more of a straightforward attack on it all, you know? And it's pretty fun because it's also, I think it's the only one as far as I know with the maple fretboard.
Yeah, I've not seen a maple fretboard on this.
And I think the only one that's got the alder body and spruce top. And yeah, this is another fun feature too. He threw on the
B bender.
He added a B bender to that.
Wow, man.
We brought that down to Joe. He threw that sucker on there. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah, so fun.
It's so great.
Yeah, and it's neat because it's such a fun little weapon because he's got, you know, a lot of songs in his catalog where you want to be, you know, ripping on a little acoustic and then kick that, you know, solo in and, you know, hit your Big Muff and switch it over. And
so you run one DI of the acoustic out and then the other side splits into the electric rig?
Yeah, it's just like, you know, you just send it into the tuner and then hit this radial switcher. Yeah. And then signal A is acoustic, just as it is, and it sounds really nice and clean and clear in the PA. And then you kick it on to B, and then you're sending it through the full pedal board into the rig, and you know, kick on your Big Muff, you know, rip that guitar solo, and then just hop right back in, and you know, all's good.
And the acoustics of the rig actually is a good segue to this guy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which is such an iconic, you know, Jack White thing.
Yeah, this is the one. This is that one that he's had since he was like, what, 19 or 20 or whatever. And you know, he talks about it in Mike It Loud, where who was he like helping his brother move a fridge for a thrift store, and someone ended up just giving it as a thank you or whatever. And man, this thing's got like, I don't know, what, 25 years of service?
Wow.
I think you got to buy someone a Rolex after that, right?
Yeah,
is that the traditional corporate thing,
Yeah, yeah.
So this thing's been around, and I just love it. There's something really it's special. It's got stories to tell,
Yeah. He finds a way of getting these sounds out of the most unexpected places, like
Yeah.
'cause I think I don't know, he's just a really creative guy. He kind of chases it down and it doesn't let like okay, that'll never work. He just goes for it.
Yeah, and it definitely falls into that kind of merging of like it seems like he always wants to find the beauty in the vintage and the classic and the old school design, and merge that with like modern things and things that are cutting edge and things that are exciting, and kind of smashing those together in a new way that's like unconventional, where I think it was pretty unique for someone to take a pawn shop Archtop or whatever you want to call this semi-hollow body, and then he's ripping it through a whammy pedal and a big muff, just like turned all the way up on some old amps. So
I guess that's what I really like. A lot of people, when they get into technology, they kind of deny everything that came before. But he's like taking the best of like the way you guys print right to acetate,
I mean, exactly.
Like you take the best of this old stuff and then use modern whatever to get the most out of it.
Totally.
Yeah, really cool.
So I love that this is getting a lot more action. He used this for a few songs on the new record, and so it's getting a lot more service duty. So it's getting sent through the whole pedal board, but it needs quite a different EQ.
Oh, I bet.
Than the normal electrics.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just kind of howls and wails at you, which is why he's always wanted to have that kill switch on there, right?
Needs it.
And so that's kind of one of the fun features that we're running in the way that we're kind of splitting another amp off. But it's all these years later, and it's still got stories to tell. And I love how, I don't know, every bit of this is like a nice memory of like some wild time, and I kind of love that it's a little chaotic.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful and it works, and like it's a little bit of a tricky thing keeping the sucker running.
Oh, I bet. It looks like it's just going to disintegrate any minute.
It is. It's like half super glue and sweat at this point, to be totally honest. But and I don't know. I also love some of the parts of this guitar too that at times we're in weird scenarios where we've been in London and it's gotten smashed up. We're in a fly pack, we don't have many tools with us or whatever, and a piece of binding breaks off, and we were at Maida Vale Studios, and I went into their closet because they were shutting down. They kind of had a graveyard, and I was like, hey, do you have anything that's like cream or kind of like off-white or whatever? I was like, I gotta fix up this binding. And they're like, oh yeah, and they look around and they're like, hey, we were gonna throw this away. And so they take a couple knobs from one of their old EQ units or something. And so I went and, did a little redneck engineer, and I shaved it down, got little bits, and, super glued that in there. And so there's like a little piece of Maida Vale Studios, BBC, that'll forever live on in this guitar. And I kind of love like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that is great.
So.
Okay, the guitars are amazing. Now, I want to talk about this pedal board, because these are products that are being developed right here at Third Man.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of these are things that we've developed and put out over the last few years, and some of them are prototypes that aren't out yet, and we'll probably glaze over some of those.
Yeah.
Just for respect on our partners and stuff like that. And then there's a few that are just like really classic things that he's used ever since White Stripes that are just like total staples,
Cool.
So,
well, what do you say we take it from the, I don't know, just let's go boot to bonnet. Let's just hear what you got going on.
Cool. Well, it's honestly, it's a pretty straightforward, it's still a very punk rock, pedalboard.
Yeah.
Where we want like
somewhere between punk rock or steampunk.
Yeah,
It's really
you know, and it's all about flexibility, and it's all about fixability, and kind of like, you know, having what we need and being able to improv. And like, you know, a lot of times on the road, there's never any set list. You never know what song's
really?
coming next, and you never know, like, you know, when inspiration strikes, where, you know, he's going to hop into a cover and start on a Stooges song or an MC5 song or something like that, or
the band just goes.
And the band just goes,
Yeah.
and that's it. And it's really exciting too, because like, you know, songs have like, you know, been written that way, where, you know, they get into a jam and like he starts spitballing a couple words, lyrics or whatever. Then like, you know, you hear it back and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's like, there's something special there. So it is nice to just have that. So, you know, and for this tour, it kept growing because we keep developing more and more pedals.
Yeah.
And we kind of got to a point where we can't really fly anymore with something this big. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I think we got to separate this in two and get a little more flexibility. So I kind of think of this side as like, think of that as like that's your burger and your drink.
Yeah.
You know, no matter where you go, you got a meal, you got dinner, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
You can rip a set on that any day of the week. And this is kind of like your fries and your milkshake, where it's like, it's great, it's fun to have those, and it's great, but, you know,
Yeah.
it's modular in that sense. So you kind of get in here.
Can we? Starts with the tuner and then the big shot.
Yeah, so this is like a Boss tuner. This is a Wazacraft one, I think it's called.
Yeah.
It's neat because it's blue and yellow, or blue and black, which is our theme on tour. Everything's, you know, that. But it also has a couple cool features where it has like a bypass or a buffer switch on the back, which is cool. And then, so we run that into Radial ABY. So this is a selector to do, A is acoustic, and that just is the Triplesonic straight to the PA. And then you kick on B, and then you're gonna get your pedalboard through the amps. And then from there, it's that's a wah pedal. It's a Dunlop, what is it, 535Q or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm not into
I'm
not into trivia. I don't really care that much about names.
Dunlop, wah.
It's the best sounding one.
Yeah, they're
I think
great. They're great.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's the 535Q. I don't remember. And then, oh, this is awesome. I love this. So Whammy's been part of his sound for, you know, since the very early White Stripes days. And it's totally like you can hear, you know, Tom Morello is like definitely one of his favorites and stuff. And so those early ones, it was just the single pedal and the single switch. But I don't remember exactly what year they put them out, but I think it was maybe it was the Rack and Tours, or maybe the Boarding House Reach, the 2018 tour. We finally got one of these that has the extra side to it. I don't remember exactly what's that called because I've painted over it a couple times, but it's the bigger one.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because, you know, ooh, I gotta clean that switch. You hear that? This is why I'm here. This is why I brought things to Third Band, so I can clean and dust things off and everything. But yeah, so that side's gonna be your whammy over here, and then for your octave up. And this side's awesome too because this over here, that's on octave down. So for like Seven Nation Army, you know, you can kick that on and run with that low end bass line or whatever.
Right.
And then kick it off and, you know, kick that sucker in there.
That's as big as it gets.
But it's funny too, it's like with this one, I mean, I've had to tape the knobs down because like, as you can tell, it's like, it's super easy to kick the knobs,
sure,
you know, in the heat of battle.
Right, right.
So I've taped them down and that does the job, but honestly, one of these days I gotta gut this thing and just like solder and hard bypass the those knobs just to get it so that it only does that. And, you know, I honestly, I think there's a couple other fun ideas that we have for that. So maybe I should get that, start redneck engineering it and send it in a little baby bassinet or whatever and put it on their doorstep, ring the bell, and run away.
This is what you should have done.
Yeah, but I think there's a couple fun things that could happen with that. But this has been around for a long, long time. And then That's the other one that's been around forever too, is the MXR Micro Amp.
Oh yeah. Sure. So that's what that is? The Double Down is their micro amp?
Yeah, that was the collaboration we ended up doing because the Micro Amp is, I don't know exactly what year, it's like before my time.
Forever.
But basically that thing's been around forever, and Jack's had that in his Signal for a long time, and I guess the start of it was, I think the old Whammies had a little bit of an extra gain boost on the way out, and then when they went from, you know, maybe Whammy 2 to Whammy 3 or 3 to 4, whatever it was, it didn't have quite as much output. So, you know, he was missing that, you know, the way it tickles your preamp on your amp a little bit. So he got his hands on an MXR Micro Amp and opened that up, and it's just like, it's such a sleeper pedal that just like, it drives your amp in such a nice transparent like way where it's not really messing with your EQ too much, and it still has like good dynamic where you can kind of play gently and it's not gonna overload, then you can dig in, and it, you know, so it's not like a traditional distortion pedal where it's like, oh yeah, you know.
What strings are you running?
These are D'Addario NYXLs.
And the D'Addario NYXL.
But they're D'Addario strings, and I've been using those since forever, and I love them.
D'Addario strings as well.
D'Addarios.
Right.
D'Addario. I've been using D'Addario.
I'm a fan of D'Addarios.
Started using these D'Addarios. I like the D'Addario NYXLs.
These are D'Addario, and I got the NYXLs on here.
And so that was a neat creation that, you know, we ended up adding a second output because he's always liked splitting to 2 different amps.
Oh,
and
that makes sense, yeah.
A crunchy side that's just your pedal board, no reverb. And then the other amp has the reverb to give you that splash and that kind of 3-dimensional kind of sound.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the best of both worlds. So that was that, and, you know, added a little true bypass or buffer switch, and then added a phase inversion on one of the outputs so that if you do have like the wiring on your speakers is backwards or whatever, you can take care of that.
Yeah, that's great. So it's cool that they took this old pedal and did a few tweaks, and now it's its own thing.
Yeah, totally. So that's what we're using at the tail end to split to both signals here.
Okay.
So, and then the Big Muff is after the Whammy. That gives it a really nice, you know, punch, and it rips real hard.
Sure.
So yeah, that's like just like a rehoused one. I never remember the model on it. It's like a NYC. I think it's, some people call it the NYC, but some people call it, it's like the metal wedge one.
Yeah.
But he used to kick through those enclosures like all day long. You know what I mean? So years ago, he started rehousing them into a really big, beefy Hammond enclosure.
Yeah.
And then
I love the way this one looks anyway.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's a staple. Big Muff has been around forever. So like, I mean, I feel like these are the 3 that, you know,
the must.
Yeah, totally. Like you get a gig in all those.
Okay.
So, you know, in wrapping up the main core elements of this, you know, we also threw on that Donner 3rd-man pedal, which is so fun. It's like deceivingly like pretty special, and it really does like a lot of fun tricks for us. And you know, he's using this for.
So what does, so it's a 3-in-1.
Yeah.
What all does it have on it?
It's got distortion, phaser, and then echo. I cover that up with a little dumb tape because we've been using that for one of the new songs that has a echo part in it.
Yeah.
And it sounds great for it. And then the phaser gets kicked on a bunch too, and sometimes in some of the older ones, like, I don't know, maybe like 16 saltines and like a couple little bits where you want that little phasey kind of wonky lead line and stuff. But yeah, the mentality of this was like, you know, with 3rd Man, they've put out some really cool boutique stuff with like small independent, you know, American companies that, because of all those factors, it ends up, you know, being a fairly high price point at some points, you know, and this was like a very intentional like thought of like, hey, you know, we really want an opportunity for people who are starting out, people with smaller budgets, to have a really cool little weapon that you can run a gig on that, you know, and
yeah, you could gig with just that. You got dirt, phase, and echo. That's like all you really need.
Yeah, so that was an exciting project. We're so pumped too that it's like, you know, it sounds great, and we're using it in the studio and on tour and everything.
Yeah, that's great.
And then this one's actually, it's not a Klon clone. That's actually a real Klon, but it's rehoused. Actually, our pals, Josh from JHS was nice enough to help out, and like he kind of had like a lead on good enclosures.
Oh,
and
okay.
they kind of helped us silk screen it with like our colors on it and stuff.
Yeah,
and
looks great.
yeah, man, he's great. He's such a enthusiastic, like exciting, passionate, like wealth of knowledge, and you know, always up for cool, fun stuff. So that's nice. This is really new though. Like only very recently. That hasn't been part of the equation for a long time. So that's fun to have around. And then these little Deci-Mates are awesome. I feel like that's a secret weapon.
So what are they? What does the Deci-Mate do?
They're these great little, what do you call them? Like noise suppressors or noise gates or whatever. But I don't know. We've never really been a big fan of some of the older ones that kind of like chop a lot of your tone out, and they kind of big and clunky or break or whatever.
Yeah.
But Jack was just looking around one day and like ordered them online, and like we put them on there, like, sounds great. They're tiny, they sound great, and they fix all sorts of problems. Like, you know, we get a pretty cool keyboard rig on tour that's like a Rhodes and a Moog and like a Hammond, and then we got a bunch of pedals on there too. And some nights it's a little buzzy because interference with lights and this and that or whatever, and throw one of those guys on, and you know, it takes care of business. So those are really great, and
that covers
that covers
the meat and potatoes.
Your meat and potatoes of a gig, and you know, I have it so that it's modular and you can use both parts separately or run them together. And you know, that's also another big factor too of like why it looks and is the way that it is, because for us, you know, a lot of stuff it's a pretty rock and roll show. Sure. And you know, things can break. Oh, and they break often. And
they will.
It's just super nice. I swear, like the first tour in 2018 and some of my other gigs, like, man, I spent a couple days, I hand solder every cable to the exact length, you hide them under the board, you do all that stuff that it's like that like cable porn sort of thing that people get all hot and bothered about. And then sometimes you're out on the road and something breaks and you're like, oh my God, I can't even get this pedal off. I just need this to go away right now. And I need to get scissors, I need to get screwdrivers and stuff. And it's like, so I don't know, it's just nice to have that flexibility and be able to move things around, do quick fixes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's part one, and then you know,
then
this is where it gets your fries over here.
Right, this gets really interesting. Let's start with this.
Oh yeah,
Telegraph.
this Triplegraph is super fun. That's a that one Jack thought of. The fellows at Coppersound sent him that original stutter pedal, where it's just the single enclosure and it kills your signal, and you can kind of tap it like Morse code style or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And it totally like, you know, hit that exciting thing for him of like an old visual, and it's mechanical, it's tactile. You just need to know what it does with a fun idea. So he shot back and he's like, hey, what if it was 3 of them all in a row, octave up, octave down, and then the middle one is stutter. But it's cool because it has a switch on the back that in one scenario, it's a kill switch and it kills it. But right now, you can run it as an auxiliary loop where you can have like a whole nother series of pedals or whatever through it. Wow. So we're running this Anasounds spring reverb pedal that we just put out the other day, and we have it like wide open, just cranked with this huge splashy driven reverb. And it's fun because you can kick this momentary switch on and it'll just like unleash the fury of this huge reverb. And then you let go and it cuts it like dead in its track. So it's like very like dramatic, and it gives like a nice little extra added punch. So that's super fun. And you know, on tour it's set to latching, but both of these here, you can set those to momentary as well. So you can just kind of click them in and out.
Oh, that's great.
So that's been a really fun, versatile thing. And you know, I think Jack first started working with those guys. I mean, I feel like that was like maybe a 4-year kind of process of like from first idea to it actually coming out. And on the road with Rack and Tours, we were road testing it and just keeping in touch with them. I'm like, oh, hey, it's kind of doing this. What if we kind of approach it this way? Or what if we ended up kind of shoring these things up? And that's kind of the beauty of being able to real life battle test it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's such a strength in this, because there's a lot of companies that will build something and they never really put in the R&D work of like getting it on tour and knocking them out. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it helps us to figure out, like, I don't know, what's gonna stick and what sticks with, us and what's usable, and then also the things that, there's been a lot of cool collaborative projects that we've kind of like started simmering and get going, and then you're kind of like, it doesn't really do the thing that we want.
Right.
What if we did it this way, but then it's too expensive to do all the tooling to redesign it in the way that we would want to use it. So, some things you end up having to kick down the road and try again some other time. But that one's so fun and it sticks, and that's very indicative of like the style and the excitement of wanting to feel like an arcade game or a pinball machine where you're like, oh, I want to go up and I have to hear this, I have to play it. It's not, you don't really get lost in it. You know what I mean? Like you don't need an instruction manual to figure it out.
Right. Yeah, just stomp and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's a spring reverb?
Yeah.
Is that actually a spring?
It is, like you can.
And you can see it. Wiggling.
Yeah, and it like lights up, and when you play the guitar, the extra signal kind of makes the lights pulse a little bit, which is kind of fun. But it's really neat because, traditionally you've always needed really big springs to get this like lush, nice reverb tone. But, we worked with these guys for a while to help kind of take one of the original concepts they had, which is like you can buy a pedal and then you can buy 3 different units, like big, small, little. And we're like, hey, let's try and smash it into one unit and see if it all still functions right. And so you have it all enclosed in one.
Yeah.
But then we started getting the first prototypes back, and we really like to try and field test it and crash through it. And, I throw it in the back of my truck and bounce around town. We test it, through humbuckers, through a couple different styles of amps. How does it sound through Marshall, Fender, all that stuff. Bring it to Jax, test it through all his stuff. And we're like, yeah, this is so cool. We're getting there, but it's kind of like losing a little bit in translation where, some pedals, like when you put them in your signal chain, like they can lose that punch and that kind of dramatic effect that you want out of it. So we started kicking around the idea with them, like, hey, what if we do a boost where, instead from say 0 to 12 or whatever it is, like now you're kind of at unity where you're passing your signal normally, but then from here up, there's a transparent boost similar to, it's not exactly an MXR Micro Amp, but it's in that same vein of where you're just pushing the original signal in a nicer, hotter way rather than distortion. But yeah, it made it so it's way more usable that you can put it kind of anywhere in your signal chain and you kind of have a little bit of extra wiggle room to do that.
Right,
and
that's
then,
great.
So we have it like, for this tour, it's just like almost wide open, so it just like growls and it starts and stops with this like really hard-hitting effect.
Hit that thing again. What's it?
I mean, yeah, because you can also have it too, so that your tails can be open. Like it's kind of like what do you call it? We were thinking about the shock absorption of like kicking reverbs, where it's nice if it can splash and nice if it can't splash.
Yeah.
So there's a little dip switch in the back where you can have that set so that it'll crash if you want it to, or it will not crash.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then the little built-in EQ, so you can, control your low or high signal on your reverb, so you can kind of get real, deep and lush, but you can also kind of get a little bit more of that, like, more tinny kind of, or tinny's not a good word, a more traditional surfy kind of high-end kind of situation.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's been really fun and super effective on this tour. And then this one here, that's
the knife drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be out soon-ish.
Yeah, totally. And that's another fun one. Like
Tell me about this thing. What's it do?
Well, we've been trying to do something with Eventide for a long time now, because those guys they're brilliant and they put out some really cool, wild sounds. But I mean, speaking for me personally, and maybe other people of my kind,
yeah,
it's a little, really digital stuff can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people will buy a digital pedal and want to spend all night in their room just tweaking sounds, and that's their like happy place.
Yeah.
I kind of want to just plug in and play and
Right.
like have fun.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So we kind of found the really cool balance of both of our worlds, of that really immediate kick in, have a gnarly sound, mixed with some of their more wacky, spacey sounds. So basically, we kicked around a couple ideas. They sent us a couple pedals, and none of them really worked out for a while. But then we ended up, they sent us an H90, and I spent a little time in the garage just going through some of the presets and stuff, and I found this one called Knife Drop, and I like immediately like brought it into Jack, and I'm like, hey, you gotta hear this. This thing's awesome. And so he's like, oh man, you know, it really sets a vibe immediately when you plug into it. And so we started development with them, and we kind of like really honed both of our strengths and weaknesses as companies to put out something that's like channeling both of our worlds. And it's got a couple cool features in it, but you know, more than anything, it just rips. And it's like kind of synthy and like driven, and it can get kind of quacky and weird sounding too.
Hey, let's hear that thing.
Yeah. What do you think? You want to grab a guitar? You want to plug in? And
Yeah, I don't know if I'm qualified to do it, but yes,
Yeah.
let's.
When we developed this with the guys, we ended up streamlining it and trying to get rid of as much of the digital anxiety that sometimes we feel with pedals. So we trimmed it down to 3 knobs, but they're multifunction, where if you hold this, now you can adjust your cutoff, right? But when you let go, it's your level. So synth, drive, and level are your main ones. And then these 3 alternate endings is adjusting your cutoff, your resonance, and your attack. But in the digital realm, sometimes you don't know if you've gotten back to home page, get back to 0, and you want to find your sound again. We built in a little shortcut where all you got to do is hold this pedal for a couple seconds, and it'll bring you right back to the knife drop sound. So you just do this guy, and boom, as soon as that green light's on, you're good to go, and then you're right back to where you were.
Okay,
That's like the default setting right there.
Wow, I was not expecting that. God, I gotta change my pants. Wow.
Yeah, so it's real fun if you do some cool like low end single note kind of little licks and stuff. That's a keeper take right there.
Oh God, I am.
No shit. Can you believe that?
Well, I'm sorry, Dan. I'm sorry, Jack. I swear.
Oh my God, it doesn't get better than that.
Oh yeah.
Whoa. Who said you could play my fucking guitar?
You're not gonna believe this, Jack.
Oh, and you broke it!
Oh God.
You broke it, nice.
Yeah. Hey, Jack.
See ya.
Come on, man.
I'm sorry, I'm running in and out of your
Oh
system.
God, no! This has been amazing, man.
What happened with that?
Dude, he's managed to break the whole wang bar off there.
Yeah,
Oh wow, that snapped, man.
you know, it's
You've been working out, haven't you?
yeah, no, trust me, I'm the weakest man in the room.
Can you believe that?
You know, we can get a close-up of it. Dan, I'm sorry about that. You know.
Dan, your day just got busy.
Yeah.
Nothing you haven't seen before, I'm sure.
No, but this is the gig though. The show goes on. You know what I mean?
Right.
You break something during a Jack White show.
Yeah.
You just keep performing.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's like
Yeah. You don't slow down. You don't stop. You keep playing.
Yeah, like I say, the show must go wrong. Yeah. Show must go wrong. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Let's try that again.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, knife drop.
Yeah. So it kind of has this cool, like, growly, like, breathy kind of like sucking, like, kind of in and out, and it kind of like.
Got it. Yeah.
It's mean sounding. It's real mean.
Yeah. It sounds like a scary movie.
Which is actually exactly like what we were thinking too. Like we kind of did all the artwork as like a kind of fake Italian horror movie.
Right.
So if you look close, this is actually one of the prototypes. The main version is going to be slightly different. We've kind of added a couple things, but you can see it's actually like a Italian horror movie poster.
Totally.
You know?
Okay.
And, but yeah, so that's kind of a.
Okay, well let's. That one's scaring me a little bit. Let's see what's next.
Well, so this is how we're running the spring reverb during the gig.
Wow.
So I'll kick off the reverb and the amp so you can kind of hear a little bit better, but it's.
Wow, I love the immediacy.
Yeah.
When you stop it, it's done. God,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. So it's kind of fun that.
But the Telegraph thing, I get it now. That is totally, the combination of the two together is really amazing. Okay, that is cool. That is so cool. Okay. All right, Dan, what's next? What other crazy stuff do you have here?
I mean, check this out.
Okay. Wow. 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 It's like a ball bouncing.
Yeah.
Slow then fast.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so you can
great.
kick in some really dramatic stuff with that, and then this one's really fun too.
Okay, too cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can dive in a bit more on those later, but that's kind of the general vibe of like the, I don't know, some of the fun you can have over with those guys.
Okay, now the Bumble Buzz has been out for a while.
Yeah, that's actually Jack's first collaboration. Jack and Third Man did that with Union out in, they're in Canada. Oh. And Chris Young and him developed that, and they put that out, geez, it must be 10 years ago now, I think.
Wow.
So that's kind of what started it all. And then this, yes, and that's just a really big, beefy.
Let me just
you know, and no knob, just really thickens things up a little bit, you know?
Oh man, yeah.
And this is another fun one that I can't remember if that was a second pedal or not. The Third Man Mantic Flex, which is kind of another trippy one. Wow. Yeah. So it gets a little wacky on that side.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That is so much fun.
Yeah. This guy's just like a Q-Tron, Electro-Harmonix Q-Tron. So that can do, you know.
Yeah.
You know, for some of those parts on his songs where they have like little quacky filtered kind of sounds like that.
It's funny, the Q-Tron, which is such a kind of a weird pedal, in this context seems like one of the more tame ones. Yeah.
We'll take that as a compliment.
Oh yeah. I love it, man.
And you guys have seen this one. That's the Game Changer Audio Third Man pedal, the plasma coil. That came out a few years back, and it's so unique. Those guys are really special. They're real brilliant. That's actually bringing the voltage up to like 3,500 volts and sending it over plasma, and you know, it's a pretty mean sounding like ripping pedal.
Boy, and the lights are mesmerizing.
It is.
I mean, to actually see music like flowing through electricity, it's so cool.
Yeah, it draws you right in. It's pretty cool. But then these over here, like that's all your, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've seen this.
Well, this is so great, man. Okay. Pedalboard's amazing. Guitar's amazing. I understand you've made some changes in the amp world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to check those out?
Yeah, let's look at these things. What
Let's roll this sucker out of the way.
Oh, wow. Look at these things.
Yeah,
okay. So let's hear about it.
So this is another one that Jack has been working on with these guys for years now, and you know, it's like kind of a combination of some like of his favorite amps and this dream scenario of mixing a couple of vintage elements with a more modern feel to, like, you know, put in this really flexible, dynamic amp. You know.
Oh, it's amazing. Okay, so I know a little bit about it. I was looking at it before we filmed. There's a 15 and a 10 in there, which is, I think, the perfect combination. I love 15.
Oh, yeah.
I've got an old Super with the 15, and oh man, I changed. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so 15s have been his favorite for years. You know, his 64 Vibroverb was his favorite amp for a long, long time. That's been a tour staple. For years, it was like Silvertone 6x10. Full big dog. You know?
Sure.
And then the 64 Vibroverb, you know, that was run just for the crunch of the pedalboard.
Yeah.
And then this had the splash of reverb on it to just add that nice dimension. And I think that was definitely one of his early, you know, little tone hacks of like getting an immediate punch with depth at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and so he'd always liked using two amps and having it split that way. So that's 15-inch over here, 10-inch over here. And then that comes from, honestly, this is my favorite part of it, is that you can do it so that the reverb is split, or it's in both.
Wow.
So in split mode, you're just getting reverb through your 10.
So you can go wet dry in one amp.
Exactly, yeah, because it's actually stereo. So you're running 6 L6s through the 15, and you're running 6 V6s through the 10.
Wow.
Right? And then so when you're in split mode, you're kind of replicating his 2 amp scenario that he did for years, where Silvertone, Vibroverb sort of vibe, you know what I mean?
Wow.
But then you can kick it into full and you can have it through both amps.
God, that's great.
Yeah. And then also what's cool about it is the reverb is put, another one of his favorite amps was a Vibro King. You ever see those, the ones
from
the 90s, the 310s?
Yeah.
And it's like the 60s reverb tank built into the front end of the amp.
Oh, really? I didn't know that detail.
Yeah, that's kind of like the origin of it, I think, is where the front end, and then so it drives through your preamp.
Oh,
and
okay.
This is kind of like taking some of that idea, but instead of the reverb being on the front end, getting driven by your EQ section, the reverb's actually after your preamp. So the way that it actually meshes with your, you know, dry signal, it's so warm, and the tails are unbelievable, and it makes it so that, you know, you don't kind of get a driven reverb. You know, like the same effect some guys will throw reverbs and delays through the effects loop,
sure,
so that they're not like driving it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, that sort of vibe. And then it's neat too, because this also has EQ on it too, and so you can do really lush warm, or you can go really
an EQ just for
the reverb. Yeah.
Wow.
And then
much like your pedal, like your reverb pedal. Oh, that's really clever. Okay.
And then you can kick these. It has a little click, so you know you've definitely turned your reverb off. You know,
that's nice.
Which is kind of handy sometimes, where you're like,
sure,
you already zeroed it out. So.
Yeah, like little details like that, or something that a player would think, God, I wish this thing had like a click, and then he just did it. That's
it's about the little things and the follow through. Like this is another fun one too, the indicator for where the power switches.
Yeah,
I mean, how many times have y'all like reached behind and accidentally grabbed a hot tube?
And Fender changed them all the time.
Yeah.
So like all my different, you know, decades of Fender amps are in different places. So yeah, I love that.
So I think that really channels that that's all deliberate because of how many years he toured with
Yeah.
amps like that, and he always wanted that all in one. And then like you got, this is also kind of similar to that as well, where he ended up adding a drive to it as well, which also clicks off, which is fun.
Oh.
And that's like a similar sort of like transparent, just like wanting to tickle your preamp a little bit more,
Yeah.
give it a little love, and not like, it's not like a distortion where it's like a whole separate channel.
Sure.
It's kind of like,
So if we take out everything and we're just hearing just the amp alone, so it, would
yeah,
that?
you want,
Oh yeah, okay.
let's go for it.
Oh yeah, that's one way to do it. There we go. Hold on, let me get my many. Sorry, these many knobs were. Yeah. So that's just a straight. Yeah, that's like, that sounds very vibro-verby to me.
Yeah. So that'll bring it. But like
That's
you're
great.
you're not like changing your tone a ton in a like
No.
really distortion kind of way. So that's pretty pretty cool. I mean, do we still have reverb on at the moment?
Perhaps this?
Ooh, that's
Oh.
another fun thing too. Having the cable come out the side so it's easier to put on your pedal board.
Right.
You know, depending on where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you got some reverb happening here. Then you can control, you know, like
yeah,
that and
everything.
get it really nice and bassy. That, and then check this out. Now you're just through that side over there.
Boy, that really
Yeah.
changed it up.
Which
And your front of house can then kind of tweak as they need too.
well, exactly, and that's the thing too. Like all the years of having, you know, a twin reverb or something like that, where you want to mic up both speakers, but unless you have like a ripped cone or radically different speakers, you're not really going to get two different, significantly different sounds.
Yeah.
But you know, this has two different preamps, two different speakers, and you can affect it. Wow. And then, you know, merging on this whole stereo setup too is the harmonic tremolo in here. So check this out. So we turned the reverb off.
Yeah.
And now we got, I got to keep this on over here.
Trim.
Yeah. So that's in mono, which basically is like pushing your speakers kind of together like that.
Yeah.
And then this is also better too if you put headphones on, but then you can kick it into stereo mode. And now you're really swampy because you're pushing both of them at different times.
I want to slow these down so you can really hear that. Wow. So if you're listening at home, try put on headphones. It's really amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
You just feel that, man.
It is. It's pretty cool. So, and it gives you just so many options too of the things that he's always wanted to do on tour. And you know, at the moment, the tour setup is that's kind of like, think of it as like the Silvertone.
Yeah.
Where crunchy, that's getting reverb most of the time. But then when he wants to do parts like Lazaretto or whatever that has that bridge part that's like really splashy and huge sounding, he can come over here and kick that on and get extra reverb out of that side. Do you know what I mean? And then so you just get this huge spread of it. And then that one's for the K.
Okay.
Because we have like a lot of the bass cut out of that and the treble kind of pushed up, the drive down. Because, you know.
Wildly different guitar.
Yeah, and you know, so that's kind of the tour setup. But I kind of want to try it on the next little run, is doing both of these in split mode. and
Right.
and then have the front of house engineer be able to have just the 15s and just the 10s and have like a really dramatic split.
Yeah.
See how that sounds and stuff. But you know, I feel like we're kind of sitting at the tried and true kind of tone that has kind of followed them through the years.
You know, Dan, it's amazing to me that Fender is taking all these really wild, radical chances. Like, I know Fender puts out a lot of different amps and they're changing all the time, but to me, their stock and trade are the amps that I've been with for 50 years, you know?
Yeah.
And to see them like come out with something that is just pushing the envelope and doing everything, but yet has this whole classic vibe, man. I love that.
Well, and I think that's the thing that maybe, I don't want to speak out of turn or whatever, but like, it seems like that's maybe what they've kind of like latched onto, where they see the options and the potential and the fact that it's like staying true to some vintage elements.
Yeah.
And pushing borders and like taking things that, you know, people have always wanted to do on tour.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that Jack is, you know, developing these things as he gigs and records all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that is a really good collaboration.
Yeah.
You know,
it's something we're so excited about, and I can't wait for people to actually be able to mess around and kind of make it their own and have some fun with them.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, hey, man, I am really grateful for letting us come over and see everything you're doing here. It's amazing.
Anytime.
Yeah.
We'll have more fun stuff soon, for sure.
And I am sorry about that whammy bar. Oh, God. I don't mind breaking my own shit, but I don't want to.
Dude, it's unbelievable because
perfect timing.
You know.
Yeah. Better here than on a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, and you know, the Fender guys are going to be here in like an hour or so.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're like, hey, bring down another white whammy bar for us, will you?
Right. Right.
Cool.
Well, hey, Dan, thanks a million, and we will circle back and when you get more stuff. This is just amazing.
Cool. Well,
Great.
thanks, y'all.
Y'all till next time.